The morning sun poured through the tall glass windows of Bright Edge Corporation, a place of shimmering prestige and silent pressure. Employees hurried through the marble-floored lobby, their polished shoes echoing ambition. Among them was Maria, the office cleaner. Dressed in a faded uniform and carrying a bucket and mop, she moved quietly, often invisible to those who thought themselves more important. Maria was a woman of grace and humility. She came early every morning, ensuring the offices gleamed before the executives arrived. She greeted everyone with a smile, even when most didn't bother to reply. For her, dignity wasn't about her job title, it was about the pride she took in her work. But that day, the peace of her routine was shattered. As Maria wiped the boardroom floor, Mr. William Carter, the company's young and arrogant CEO, stormed in. His suit was worth more than Maria's yearly salary, and his tone dripped with superiority. "What on earth are you doing here during meeting hours?" he barked. "Do you think this is your personal cleaning time?" Maria froze, startled. "I'm sorry, sir," she stammered. "I was just finishing before your meeting started." But William wasn't in a forgiving mood. His morning hadn't gone as planned. A deal had fallen through, and he needed somewhere to direct his frustration. Unfortunately, Maria was the nearest target. "You cleaners never learn," he snapped, "always getting in the way, making things inconvenient for everyone else." The entire office turned silent. A few employees peeked from their cubicles, their expressions mixed with shock and pity. Maria stood trembling, her eyes glistening, but she said nothing. She simply whispered, "I'm sorry, sir," and began to gather her tools. William smirked, walking past her. But as he did, his coffee cup slipped from his hand, spilling across the freshly cleaned floor. He looked down at the mess, then at Maria, and instead of apologizing, he laughed. "Looks like you missed a spot," he mocked, tossing a tissue at her feet. The laughter that followed from some of the staff felt like knives to her heart. Maria knelt silently and began cleaning again, her tears mixing with the spilled coffee. No one spoke up for her. No one dared. That evening, as she returned home, her husband David, a quiet man with gentle eyes, noticed the sadness in her face. "Maria, what's wrong?" he asked softly. She hesitated before finally telling him everything, the humiliation, the laughter, the pain. David listened quietly, his jaw tightening with every word. When she finished, he simply said, "Don't worry, my love. People who look down on others forget that life has a way of looking." 2 days later, Bright Edge Corporation was buzzing with excitement. The CEO had announced that an important international investor would be visiting the company, a potential partner who could change their future. Everyone was on edge, ensuring the office looked perfect. Maria, still nursing the hurt from before, worked even harder. She didn't want to cause any trouble. Though her spirit was wounded, her dedication remained. As the clock struck 10, a sleek black car pulled up outside. Out stepped a tall, distinguished man in a tailored navy suit. His presence commanded respect. The staff lined up to greet him, and William Carter personally rushed to the entrance, flashing his most charming smile. "Mr. David Thompson," William exclaimed, extending his hand. "It's an honor to have you here. I've heard a lot about your success." The man shook his hand firmly, his expression calm. "Thank you, Mr. Carter. I'm looking forward to seeing your company's operations." The name David Thompson echoed across the room. He was the CEO of Thompson Enterprises, one of the biggest logistics companies in the country. What no one knew, except for one woman quietly mopping the floor in the corner, was that David Thompson was none other than Maria's husband. William led him through the building, showing off departments, statistics, and achievements. Everything was going smoothly until David noticed a familiar figure cleaning quietly near the hallway. He stopped in his tracks. "Excuse me," he said to William. "Who is that woman?" William glanced over dismissively. "Oh, that's just one of our cleaners. Don't worry about her. She sometimes gets in the way, but we keep her around." David's expression hardened slightly, but he said nothing. He walked over to Maria, who had just looked up and froze in disbelief. Their eyes met, hers filled with surprise, his with warmth. "Maria," he said softly, with a tone of deep respect that made everyone pause. "It's good to see you again." The entire room went silent. Maria's trembling lips whispered, "David." William blinked, confused. Wait, you two know each other? The color drained from William's face. Around them, employees exchanged stunned glances. The cleaner, the one he had mocked, humiliated, and laughed at, was married to one of the most powerful men in the industry. I had no idea, William stuttered, trying to recover. Sir, please, it was just a misunderstanding. Was it? David interrupted. His voice was calm but carried a sharp edge that cut through the room. Because from what I understand, you humiliated my wife in front of your employees. William's polished confidence began to crumble. Sir, it was nothing serious, I assure you. Just a moment of frustration. I didn't mean. David held up a hand. A moment of frustration doesn't give you the right to disrespect another human being, especially someone who's working hard to make your company shine. The staff stood frozen, watching as the tables turned. For once, the CEO was the one under scrutiny. David looked around the office and continued, I built my business from the ground up. I started as a janitor. Every person who works with me knows that no role is beneath respect. You can tell everything about a leader by how they treat those who can do nothing for them. He turned to Maria, who stood silently, tears welling up, not from shame this time, but from pride. Maria, you've always been strong, David said softly. You've faced more with grace than most could with power. I'm proud of you. William swallowed hard. Mr. Thompson, please, if I've offended you, I deeply apologize. David looked at him steadily. Apologies are only meaningful when followed by change. I'm not here for revenge, Mr. Carter. I'm here to remind you, and everyone here, that respect is the foundation of leadership. Without it, titles mean nothing. He paused, then added, consider this a lesson, not a punishment. In the following days, things changed at Bright Edge Corporation. The atmosphere softened. People began greeting each other with genuine smiles. The cleaners, receptionists, and assistants, those often overlooked, started receiving appreciation for their hard work. William Carter, deeply affected by what happened, began transforming as a leader. He visited each department personally, including the janitorial team, to thank them. For the first time, he listened. He realized that power wasn't about dominance, it was about empathy. As for Maria, her quiet strength became an inspiration. She never boasted about her husband or what happened that day. Instead, she continued her work with the same dedication and humility that had always defined her. But there was a new confidence in her eyes, one that came from being truly seen and respected. One afternoon, as David visited the office again, William greeted him sincerely. Mr. Thompson, he said, I've learned something valuable thanks to your wife. David smiled. And what's that? That leadership isn't measured by how high you stand, William replied. But by how you treat those who stand below you. David nodded. Then you've learned the most important lesson of all. Before leaving, he turned to Maria. Shall we go, love? He asked warmly. She smiled. A simple, genuine smile that lit up the entire room. As they walked out together, every employee who once looked past her now looked at her with admiration.